Welcome everybody to the Reap Smite League. My name is Judas Priestley, joined today by Kara, and we are bringing you guys a Week 3 fixture between casual mains and food fighters. It's very worthwhile to note today, Kara, that both of these two teams are coming into this match as the only two 100% record teams, clashing early on, but we'll get to settle once and for all, at least for this early stage in the season, who is the better of these two teams.
Unstoppable force and movable object finally meet. It's always exciting when you get two teams with 100% sort of streak meeting at any stage of the season. Might only be week 3, but it always means you're going to get two hotly contested fixtures, and it gives them a chance to sort of figure out who really is the top dog in this league.
And of course, it's well worth pointing out that obviously this league has recently started this newest season, and we've actually had quite a big patch in the 9.11 patch, and it has brought mages back into the middle lane. So, we've seen a lot of Yu Huang and Ishtar lately in that mid lane, but, especially with these two gods being banned out already, I'm expecting to see quite a few different picks come into that mid lane this time around.
I think mid lane went through a bit of a tricky patch, didn't it, fairly recently, where mages were basically not being played at all. You were getting hunters in mid, you were getting the likes of Set in mid, and mages. We were even seeing entire SPL fixtures where there was no mage in the game, which is crazy. So it's good to see that them coming back in to the game a little bit. And Yu Huang, you mentioned there being banned away. He's been strong since he's been out, really, hasn't he? Even when mages were having that tricky patch, he still was the most top pick mage. I'm happy to see Ishtar banned away though. When Ishtar was released, I looked at her kit and I thought that she looks quite fun. She looks to have a lot about her, but I don't think they've had quite the impact on the meta that people maybe expected. But maybe with a couple of recent changes, maybe she is now coming into things, and top ban maybe suggests that.
Yeah, we've seen a couple of games lately where Ishtar's been showing up. I don't feel like it's really taken anything over, but it has a lot of variation, a lot of flexibility, of course, with Ishtar. You can sort of do whatever you need to do in most situations. But I love to see it, Kara. Scylla being top picked here today. I always say it, I will say it yet again. Scylla, my favorite god to cast, because always has the potential for the spectacular. You can just have a whole game flip on its head by just a couple of skills coming out from that Scylla. But Kunados and Naja, top 2 from Food Fighters, that's a pretty strong top 2 to answer back with.
It definitely is, and I think what we're seeing here is a draft of almost early season 9 and late season 9. So you've got gods that were so highly valued at the start of the season, in the likes of Yamoja being picked up, but also gods who are very, very relevant right now in Cernanos and Neja, who I think are going to be very strong going into Worlds. I think we're going to see a lot of those for the Season 9 World Championships. Cern especially. He's my secret sort of on the sly. I think he'll have a big part to say.
Well, we'll have to see exactly how it goes, because not too far away are the World Championships. But before then, we've got some amateur Smite to get through. We need to sort out who's the top dog at the lower levels in these sorts of regions. But seeing Guan Yu coming through, it's just another solid pick. Like Food Fighters, if this was before the 9.11 patch, I don't know if there's a better top 3 you could get than those 3, right? Like that's just a really, really good lineup.
Yeah, Guan is almost meta-proof, isn't he? Always a solid pick, always strong, very rarely gets bullied, always relevant in terms of all stages of the game. It's a good draft so far. I'm liking it. I'm assuming that's going to be a Neja support. It's been a long while since we've seen a Neja jungle. But I tell you what, I'm really liking here, Judas, and we touched upon it earlier. Look how many mages have been involved in the picks and bans already. Mages are back, despite what people may be saying, that they're still weak. I don't think they are. And if this is a Ymir locked in, which it is, I am liking this Food Fighters draft. They are picking a lot of gods that are in my god pool. This is a Kara Gold draft right here.
Well, funnily enough, to complete the Kara Gold draft, they do still need some sort of big bursty mage. Funnily enough, like a Vulcan or a Poseidon, even a Yu Huang. So, these bans will be affecting the draft. There are a few mages left lining up, of course, but none that as yet are so clear to provide the big burst damage to contend with a Scylla. Scylla just one of the best in the game at not only providing an area of just death, an explosive death at that, but also securing objectives has to be relevant. Food Fighters Draft does a good job of putting the team in a position to contend with these objectives, but we don't know if they can actually secure them yet. We'll have to keep an eye on how that draft ends up finishing off. But you called it a Kara draft. If it was a Kara draft, who's Kara picking for this final pick?
Well, I think it depends on who's going to be in jungle for casual mains. At the moment, that's quite a good front line. Ymir and Guan are going to give a lot of protection to that back line. Obviously, Kernanos has got enough mobility that he doesn't quite need as much peel as maybe others. Neja obviously is not going to be in the back line. They're going to be looking to get around to this Scylla. So I don't know. I think you might be able to roll the dice and go with someone maybe a little bit more immobile who can just output that extra bit of damage. Maybe someone like a Ra. But it depends how much dive potential the casual mains have. If they go dive, which what they're hovering there suggests that they're going to be looking to put some pressure on the back line. Okay, if Osiris is locked in, definitely not Ra. Take that off the table straight away. Ra is gone, not Ra. But yeah, they need something here that can capitalize on what is going to be the setup from Ymir and obviously the geometry with the walls, locking people in place. I'd like to see a Merlin, actually. I think Merlin could do quite well here. Has got the mobility to not be too concerned with Eagles Rally or Lord of the Afterlife. Or Morgan, which you played with me earlier today, Judas, and I was so complimentary out the damage that Morgan Le Fay can put out. So they needed AoE damage. They've definitely got that. If you can keep this Morgan Le Fay safe, which with Guan and Ymir, the likelihood is you can. This could be a very, very solid all-round draft from the Foo Fighters.
Yeah, it's interesting. I looked at the pick at first, the Morgan Le Fay, and I thought maybe not, because it's not the safest of mid lane mages. Of course, no real escape in the kit. You do of course have your ultimate, which gives you some movement speed, and of course you do have I don't even know what it's called. That dragon that she sets off that knocks up. It's very good at peeling for yourself a bit, but it's not the safest of mages, like I said. However, you don't really need it, I would say, because while you will have big dive potential from Naja, Guan Yu, and Mia, you might well find that you just don't need the peel side of things from all of them, because one of them only has to step back, and all of a sudden, if Ymir just sits on Morgan Le Fay, keeps them safe, you don't need that escape to get away. You can just keep outputting the damage, because it's very relevant to note, Morgan Le Fay, all 4 abilities actually do damage, which isn't that common. You might be surprised to figure out, but yeah, it's interesting to see how these drafts go together. And you said that the Food Fighters draft is a Kara draft, but does it hold up to the casual mains draft, in your opinion?
I think it does. I think what they may be lacking here, the casual mains. I mean, it's got to be either Bologna or Osiris in the jungle. I just think they lack the burst damage to punish the backline for the Foo Fighters. Let's say Bologna or Osiris can get to Morgan Le Fay. They manage to avoid the wall, they avoid the freeze, they avoid the cavalry charge and the sash. Let's say they get through all of that and they get to Morgan Le Fay. There's not enough burst damage there for me for Bologna and Osiris to put out the damage to quickly take Morgan off the map. If this was a high burst damage jungler that could, clean away the mage, what happens then is that the Foo Fighters look behind and their main source of damage is gone. And also their main source of, dealing with any sort of pressure. So, yeah, I'm liking the Food Fighters draft, although I'm not just going to say that it's perfect, because I think the one thing it is really lacking is secure. Yes, Shards of Ice can do that, but certainly not as well as what we can see on the side of the casual mains. They've got the Field of Love, they've got the I'm a Monster, which is one of the best secures in the game.
We'll have to keep an eye on exactly how these two sides shape up together. We do see a very, very early invade coming out there from the captain, taking away that entire purple buff, of course. Taking advantage of the issues with the Invader's Curse at the moment. Managed to step all the way up that far into the lane and not have to worry about the situation. They just sort of push on in and take some early experience away from the enemy team. It's always a good way to start the game, because as much as there aren't many kills in the dual lane at the minute, having pressure there is just always going to pay off for you. And look at it already.
Yeah, it certainly is. And what it does is it stops them hitting level 2 off the first wave. But the problem is they haven't hit level 2 yet either, so they maybe don't have that advantage. But there's a lot going on right side.
Yeah, scrapping back and forth. Go on, you got dashing away, and it's still some more aggression from Osiris onto this Naja, getting really deep into enemy lines there, and does manage to force away Bobby right now. Getting chased all the way down to between the tier 1 and tier 2 towers in the first minute or so. Means that there might be some issues early on, because Naja certainly going to struggle to brawl with Osiris. So Shadowstalker fully aware of that matchup interaction. Looks like they're going to take it right to the enemy junglers. They still continue to slash on down this Naja. And I don't know, that's got to be a tough time in the jungle if you can't even just walk around safely.
We've had an invading left and right pre 1 minute 30. Could there possibly be an issue with Invader's Curse that people maybe know about right now? You don't usually see invades that early. So, do you know what? I like the fact that invades can potentially be viable, even if it is because of a bug. It just brings that extra little bit of spice. When the game is the same start every time, it does get a little bit stale. But it adds a bit of excitement, a bit of spice. I like it. Keep the bugs coming.
Keep the bugs coming, keep the little variations and changes coming, because they do tend to change up the game quite a lot. And of course, we're not far removed from when Beads and Aegis was not available onto both sides. And of course, that changed things a lot too. So, we've just come off of a mini meta, and now we've adjusted to a new mini meta as well. Another purple buff attempt invade attempt coming out from Papoose, though. Sorry, not Papoose. It was the captain. The captain makes their way all the way over, but of course thinks a little bit better of it because Shadowstalker was finding their way on over. So it's going to be an interesting matchup between these two sides, and it already. How do I say it? It already looked like pressure was building on this left-hand side of the map in favor of Foo Fighters, but they sort of had to dial it back a little bit now already.
Yeah, to be honest, I think they kind of made a little mistake at the start. So they got the invade, which was obviously great, good start. But Casual Mains actually cleared the wave before they did. So the advantage of invading and stopping your opponent hitting level 2 before you was completely lost. They went for the damage onto the opponents, and yeah, kind of small mess up, and they lost the advantage basically. But yeah, now we're back to stalemate.
Yeah, back to a stalemate across the board. No kills, of course, on the map, and it's all sort of backed off, right? We do see that NA Smite tends to be famous for just all-out aggression and action all over the map, and while it was attempted in this early stage, it actually didn't end up coming off for either team. So then you tend to find everyone sort of comes back into their shell a little bit. It's like, all right, we went for the early advantage, didn't get it. Now let's just get back to our farming routes. Both the junglers going around their normal pathways. However, Shadowstalker goes all the way up to the enemy small camps. Turns out Bobby had just backed off the base anyway. So again, some attempted aggression coming out from Casual Mains, but not quite finding anywhere. But I'm just going to throw it to you, Kara. If you were to expect one particular area of the map to be, where we might see this first bit of action coming through, where would you expect it to be at this stage?
I'd say probably not solo. Guan and Bologna is a tale for the ages, and that tale is long drawn out and has very little kills involved. But with Ymir Cupid, just one catch of either the freeze or a heart bomb stun, and it causes an engage. So I think duo is likely where we may see the early spread of the action. Although having said that, for a fact First Blood will now be in solo. Of course it will.
I mean, that's just how Caster's Curse works, Carrie. You just move around exactly what you don't expect to happen. But interestingly, it is worth pointing out that Bobby has hit level 5 on the Naja, which tends to be the stage where this god can get active on the map. Of course, every god wants their ultimate, but some of them are a bit more reliant than others. And we do see a movement over to this purple buff already in the face of Wipe My Assy, by the way. That's the burn of purification beats early
I've
on.
seen that name.
Oh. Yeah, I'd spotted it. I was waiting for the moment for it to come through. But just Wipe My Assy wriggles free of the armillary sash and gets back to base, back to their tower safely. But sans purification beads, Karen. That might be the target for the next few minutes of aggression.
Yeah, I actually thought it was possibly an overcommit by Oibubi going in against 2, but if it gets the beads, it's actually worth, because especially there was no retaliation kill, it should get away. And obviously beads being down in a lane where there's a Ymir just waiting for you to misstep. Yeah, that's quite a good little victory there.
See both mid lane mages facing each other off by missing every single ability under the sun against each other. But it's just posturing for this stage. Oscilla and Morgan Le Fay, both gods that you would expect to come on later on. So both almost hyper carry styles, but in completely different ways. That's why the matchup is quite interesting between those two. Funny enough, Kara, that Morgan Le Fay game you were talking about earlier on that we played together, I was against Lucilla. So
Yeah.
I know this matchup. I've seen it today. I'm fully versed in exactly how this matchup goes, and I would say it's fairly even. But early on, don't expect to see too much action.
Yeah, it's a snooze fest in 2 lanes here, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
the gods either cancel each other out, or they're both, you know, doing nothing until they've got an item online and a couple of abilities sort of maxed. So yeah, duo lane is where I expect to see it. But big commitment here on Scylla.
Forced into the eye. My monster is commodity. Has to see if they can get some value out of it. They do shoot it forward, but don't manage to connect. And, a River's Rebuke there. Off the mark comes through. Nice double freeze instead coming out from the captain. So it ends up amounting to nothing so far, but it's 2 ultimates for 1. And at this stage, that's the sort of trades you're looking to win if you are the food fighters.
Guan Yu has made their way over here as well. Just it's such a difficult matchup when you have the warrior in jungle, because they don't have enough damage to take out the other warrior, and the other warrior doesn't have enough damage to dive
Hold on.
hard. However,
that's a cavalry charge and a slash down from Guan Yu, but Papoose now finds themselves in a lot of trouble, gets another Talu assault to steal some protections, does manage to get that Warrior's Will on out of there too, and a little bit of peel coming out from Bubby means that will be a free kill in favor of the food fighters. Can they find another? Because coming through is, Zelda finding the swipes, getting a lot of damage off onto Cannibal Kama, but not enough damage just yet. But first blood and signs of life for the food fighters.
yeah, you can't underestimate the power of that Talu's Assault, because it doesn't just do damage, it shreds protections, which means they go off the opponent and onto you. And when you're against a physical god doing that, it swings, it's like a seesaw, and it massively starts to go in your favor very, very quickly. But yeah, I think Shadowstalker probably just stayed a little bit too long there, taking 2 Talu's Assault in one fight. He's basically doing true damage if he's stolen that many protections from you.
Yeah, it just hits so hard. And Guan Yu surprisingly does hit hard. You mentioned it is a warrior in the jungle, so they tend to be a bit tankier. But like I said, Talu's Assault does cancel that out, strips away a lot of the tankiness from Shadowstalker. And yeah, if you're taking 2 Talu's Assault in one fight, you're going to be in some trouble. But hold on, there's the Tether Stun coming out. Unfortunately, Shadowstalker can't find enough of the damage and will not be able to get the kill. Bubby that caught, though, no mana in their own jungle. And Naja, despite maybe having a little bit of a lead by virtue of not falling down, just cannot box with an Osiris.
Yeah, and do you know what? The way it's going so far, it's it's quite slow and evenly matched. I think this probably does favor the food fighters, because the strength. The biggest lead they're going to have in terms of their draft in this game for casual mains is by having 2 warriors at the start. They're going to be stronger, but they haven't managed to press home that advantage yet. If it gets to the late game and everyone's online, you've got to say there's more than enough damage coming out from food fighters. They need to put a bit more pressure on, for me, the casual mains.
Food fighters managed to get another set of purification beads, this time from Commodity, who hasn't been under too much pressure just yet, but has had a couple of attempts on their life, sort of go successfully so far, so you do need to be careful. We do see Wipe My Assy farming away on this Cupid. It did, of course, lose their purification beads earlier on, but maybe a bit of a missed opportunity for the food fighters. They don't re-engage. There's a slight level lead now in favor of Red Rel. So there is an advantage here and there coming the way of food fighters, but maybe they need to be working a little bit more with it if they want to capitalize on this game. But like you said, Carrot, they do scale just that bit better.
Yeah, and what I'd say is, if I was the jungler for either team here, I'd certainly be focusing more on sort of left and mid lane, because will kill here in mid lane, potentially.
Potential kill. That's a sentinel forward, because there's nowhere else to go, and Commodity does fall down, does get punished for that purification beads usage early on. So now, this time, the opportunity is capitalized on by food fighters. Still an invade going on from Shadowstalker, and of course, like we mentioned, Bubby can't really brawl with Shadowstalker when they're on their own, but there is backup coming. The cavalry is arriving, quite literally, because that's a Guan Yu with a cavalry charge. Goes for the stun early, but does it at the wrong time, and Lord of the Afterlife away from Shadowstalker means that this Osiris gets away scot-free.
He's lucky to be gotten away there. I think if Papoose just plays, oh, White Mayasi goes down over in the dual lane. Yeah, Papoose, if just timed it a little bit better, that they punish Shadow Stalker for what is their third foray into the right side deep jungle. You won't get away with that for much longer unless you have full vision of it, which they didn't. So yeah, let's see if Shadow Stalker learns from that and adapts, because they were lucky there.
Yeah, of course, that's exactly the rotation that Bobby needed to take that fight, and it was also perfect. I think maybe they were expecting Shadow Stalker to have already lost that ultimate. Maybe they thought it would have come out earlier, and committing to the stun there, but you really didn't need to. You can't just channel that ability for a long time. Even if it does take you a little bit further than you want, you still would be pretty much okay. But we're seeing a small gold lead now for Food Fighters, and I don't know. I'm just not quite sure yet where Casual Mains are going to find their first kill of this game.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. But this is something I've been noticing a lot, and this is not just in this game. It's in the meta in general at the moment. The jungler spends a lot of time in right side jungle these days because there's just so much there to take. After the most recent season, when they added a few extra camps, that's where the majority of the time is spent. But in this game, you almost have to not play that way, because there's so much more for you in this duo lane, and that is what Bubby is doing better here. They have ganked this lane twice. Have we seen Shadow Stalker come over here? Yeah, I don't think so. They've just sort of been, invading right jungle and really only getting back cams for it. So yeah, that would be the change I'd make if I was Casual Mains, is switch up that focus from right side jungle over to left, because Guan and Bellona, they're ungankable, and they're not going to kill each other. They're just going to trade blows and back and then farm again. It's one of the boring solo lane matchups, that.
Yeah, I think I think Casual Mains would find that if they do spend a lot of time putting pretty much just Bubby behind, right, invading small camps does put the Naja down in levels. So you see a GoldFury attempt coming through, and looks like it will actually be quite successful. Just hold on, because coming over is Zelda. Does have all their abilities that they need, but the River's Rebuke comes up, and the GoldFury does get secured without any real fight coming through. And just like that, Casual Mains step up, take the objective, back away, and come away with a little bit of a gold lead.
Yeah, you know me, Judas. I'm a big fan of a quick, under-the-nose objective steal, and that's exactly what Casual Mains did there. They recognized there was an opportunity. They saw there was so much committed to middle and right jungle, and went, you know what, we can sneak a GoldFury here. And yeah, Cannibal Kama, perfect River's Rebuke. It may not have blocked anyone getting in, but it certainly broke that line of sight.
Yeah, and sometimes that's all you really need, right? When you want to be quite precise, as you would have to be, right? Because Morgan Le Fay trying to steal an objective like that, you're only really doing 300, maybe 400 at best, and probably not even 400. I got to be honest, that much damage at this stage in the game, it just means that you have to get very, very lucky to out secure a Scylla. It just doesn't happen. And we actually touched on in the draft phase, what will Food Fighters have to contend these objectives, and they ended up with nothing. And I mean, that's just exactly how it goes. So, while we were talking about how Food Fighters have done better getting some kills early on in these early stages, maybe Casual Mains aren't even looking for that. They just want to kind of objectively make their way to the end game stages of this game.
Yeah, no pun intended there, I'm sure. Yeah, so we see Shadow Stalker actually making their first trip over here, and I think they may find it more fruitful than expect here, because Red Ral is a little bit isolated. That there's no one anywhere near. If they commit to a kill here, the chance are they get it, but they're actually disengaging. Yeah, opportunity missed there potentially. I think there's Cernanos, considering the gap between him and his teammates on the map, that there's a gank here for sure.
Yeah, and of course, Red Roll does have a little bit of a level lead now, about 2 levels over White Mayasi, and it's certainly, not something that Cupid could fight into alone. But that's exactly what the gank is for, right? That's what you show up for, and I do think Osiris is a pretty good attempt at ganking over there, and it looks like Purification Beads burned out from White Mayasi yet again by Oi Bobby. So, the Naja having really big impact all across the map. They might not have all the kills, but they certainly have had an impact so far.
Yeah, they're basically just making their way over here, burning wipe beads, and then just getting away. It's commodity though, caught by 3.
Yeah, Bobby shows up, gets beads from 1, then ults another, because I didn't actually use the ultimate that time. And the River's Rebuke is very good, does trap 2, but there's no follow-up damage, and in fact the shield from that magic shell is enough to absorb that entire ultimate. And they drop another kill, do casual mains, they drop another ultimate, and really not getting a lot of payoff just yet. As we see another gank attempt, does not quite connect with the artillery sash there, did Bobby, but that could have been a very, very dead Cupid at that stage just then.
Yeah, that was, I don't mean this in a harsh way, but that was a kill dropped right there. If that artillery slash connects, that's almost certainly a kill.
It's an unfortunate stun there coming up onto Shadowstalker, who does up down right in place, but now might find themselves a little bit more damage than they expected as Papoose takes down the enemy jungler. Now we see all alone on this right side of the map is King Vlad falling down. The only objective up nearby is the fire giant.
Surely not.
Starting it up. They're starting up the fire giant at the 17-minute mark. Unfortunately, it does seem to be that Zelda is the one tanking this. She's taking a lot of damage right now. Is the Morgan Le Fay, and it's going to fall very, very low. Can't continue on taking this. So they do have to drop it because they just don't have the damage. A bold claim, or a bold call, I should say, coming out from the Food Fighters just there, but it doesn't pay off. But they might just have to take a kill instead. The consolation kill coming up onto Cadvil Kama right now. Will not be able to escape despite their best effort. So it's not quite Fire Giant Kara, but it's still something.
Yeah, and I said that Shadowstalker got lucky a little bit earlier on, and Food Fighters just got very lucky there because it was a bad call. Let's not beat around the bush. It was a bad call. Oh, do we have a DC? Potentially. That may be a DC. Yeah, it was a bad call, and they started the Fire Giant up, and who was lurking in the waters? It was none other than Commodity with an I'm a Monster. Imagine that Fire Giant gets a little bit lower, Commodity comes in, steals the Fire Giant with an I'm a Monster, and then just reels away. That's a huge loss for no reason. So, dropping it at the right time, because their Morgan Le Fay took too much damage, not because they recognized it was a bad call. Yeah, that's just one of them, I guess.
Yeah, one of those situations where you just have to take a look at it. Like I don't how do I say it? I don't begrudge the damage check, right? Like, hey, can we do this? Is this possible? And they go for it. Realize they don't have the damage. I will say it's probably due to the fact that Zelda was actually tanking it. If they did correctly juggle the aggro of that, it may have been more possible. But I don't actually think that was really ever on. It's just a case of, do casual mains just completely not pay any attention to it. But there is still signs there that, if Food Fighters do get a smaller win in another team fight, then all of a sudden this Fire Giant is more than on the table for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're doing well at the moment, our Food Fighters. They're putting pressure all across the map. But it's not quite shown in terms of a gold lead yet. It's only 3k, 0 and 7, and how they've played, you'd think it may be a little bit more. I think the problem here for casual mains is their comp suggested they had to play aggressive at the start with this Bellona and Osiris pick. They just haven't had chance to do that, have they? They haven't been able to be as aggressive as you kind of need for an Osiris.
Yeah. I think for that to work, they would have had to get aggressive, and in the early stages, you tend to find that fights last a little bit longer. You don't quite have the damage, so you tend to get a lot of basic attacks off, a lot of rounds of your abilities to come through. Although, hold on, yet again we see Commodity caught by the Naja, and I was just about to touch on Kara. We've seen the fighting coming out from Food Fighters has been Naja goes in, blows someone up or gets a lot of damage, and that is that. And now Cadvil Kama falls down. So 2 kills dropped in quick succession from casual mains with, as I was just saying, Kara, not a lot of team fighting. Just 2 quick picks, and now it's an objective.
Yeah, and Bubby is doing the Naja role here in that isolating the opposing backline very, very well. But they're not having to try hard to get that. They've caught Commodity alone in mid lane twice now. Against the Naja, that's a cardinal sin, isn't it? You cannot be caught alone against the Naja. You have to, if your support is not there, then you have to be under your tower.
Yeah, have to be at least somewhere safe, but another objective goes the way of Food Fighters. Food Fighters feasting at the moment and taking the fight to the casual mains. But a mass recall now at the Fire Giant may be considered an attempt at the major objective, but decide to back away for just a moment, reset, spend off all of their gold. But speaking of gold, Kara, some gold has been spent on an interesting item here, because we do see Wipe My Assy after Devourer's Gauntlets has gone for a Griffin Wing Earring. Have you ever seen this item in competitive play?
Yes, Zapman bought it yesterday.
Interesting. I
Zapman
didn't spot
bought
that.
it yesterday. He tweeted that there was going to be a new hunter build, and he actually started it and then went into Devo's Gauntlet. And if it's good enough for Zapman, then it's potentially good enough for anybody. Although what I will caveat that with is in the game that Zapman did that, there was a point he was 0-8. He finished a more respectable score. Don't get me
Well,
wrong.
1 and 8.
But I think it was 4-8. I think it ended 4-8. I'm a monster. Doesn't connect on Zelda. Would have killed as well. Unfortunate.
So now we do see Red Ral having dashed forward, might be in some danger. Doesn't, of course, connect with the Wild Hunt, so a lot of ultimates down. But now, unfortunately, White Mayasi gets caught by another artillery sash. Does escape for the time being, though, but swinging down on their head is Papoose, and White Mayasi does fall down early on. Some kills traded back and forth. Finally on the board is Casual Mains, as Shadowstalker takes their first kill of this match. But now we do see Red Ral just swinging away. Plenty of those glaives. A nice double disarm coming through means that King Vlad can get aggressive, but getting aggressive as well is Papoose on top of Commodity, who just about survives through the Tallow Assault. So it's a 2-for-1 trade. Does go in favor of Food Fighters, but it's good for Casual Means to get on the board.
Yeah, they needed the kill, I guess, but they lose an extra one in retaliation. I'm just seeing in the team fights they just seem to be lacking that something to deal with the Ymir and the Guan. White Mayasi kind of possibly needs to go into some sort of more shred here. I think Xe probably needs to be picked up last item here. They have to reduce the protections of this front line, which is just terrorizing Casual Mains. And that's the problem. When the front line is being allowed to do its job in terms of just absolutely cause havoc, it makes it very difficult for the rest of your team to follow up. Potential
Coming around
steal
the
here, though.
backside is Commodity with a crusher, gets it, takes it away in the middle of the entire enemy team, and now getting aggressive is the rest of Casual Mains, as falling down now is Zelda. On the other side, we do see Commodity lifted into the sky, but the peelers arrive for them, they do stay alive, and a magic shell keeps them alive for just a moment, but Bubby does get the return kill, but now has nowhere to go, no friends to follow, and coming on, hold on, teleport in instead from Papoose, trying to swing down, save their teammate, will not be enough. Oh, Bubby does fall down in the end. And then coming down now in some more danger is Papoose. Fire Giant steal. 3-man wipe. Casual Mains push this game right on its head.
Food Fight was in complete control of this game until 45 seconds ago. Enormous play from Commodity. They've had a quiet game so far, but when they stole that Fire Giant, let me tell you now, they stayed quiet as they snuck around the back. There is not a chance that Food Fighters knew where they were. I looked on the map, there was no ward coverage, and they just snuck in, stole the Fire Giant, and got away. And fair play, really well played to Casual Mains for recognizing that this was an opportunity to hard commit and play with the aggression that they've needed throughout this game. And boy, did it pay off. Huge moment for Casual Mains. Big play from Commodity. They have just grabbed this game by the scruff of the neck and got themselves into a gold lead.
I did say that, again, I'm going to touch onto it. The objective steal potential or secure potential from Food Fighters just wasn't there. Now, it looked like they didn't need it, but when there's a Scylla on the map, all eyes and all ears, all the comms should have been then is, where is Scylla? Where is Scylla? What's Scylla doing? You got them now. You got two people waiting around this Oni Fury, but Scylla's here. They can't take this. They cannot take this objective while a Phoenix is under threat on the right side of the map, I should add. But this Oni Fury, it's getting down to about half health. They now have to juggle a bit and mess around with it. I'm a Monster's available, though. Sneaking around with the Sentinel. I get the kill. I can't believe it. Oh, my Lord. What am I seeing? I cannot believe they've allowed that to happen. Oh man. I don't know what to say. What do you say to that? That was everyone knew what was going to happen in that situation. There's a fight going on right now. I don't even care. I don't care. What are you doing? You cannot allow for a Scylla to just walk up to an objective when there are only two of you and they cannot possibly out-secure it. Fight is still going on. Fields of Love. Votes traded. Nobody dying. Doesn't matter. Oni Fury goes the way of Casual Mains. I'm on tilt right now.
Oh, this I'm a Monster has been the biggest commodity. See what I did there? To the casual mains right here. Scylla, as she was on her own, she was stood there just watching it happen. Like,
In
I'm
full
gonna steal
view.
this. I'm gonna steal this. Not only am I gonna steal this, I'm a monster Cernanos and squash him as well. Like, where is Bobby when you needed him there? The Scylla was completely on her own. There needs to be more clearer cut communication for the food fighters here, because these are two avoidable situations that they've just lost this to, and both of those situations could have been avoided by the same sentence. Where's Scylla? That's all it
Yes.
takes. Where is Scylla? Oh, Scylla's here. Okay, drop this. Drop
Yeah.
this right now. Oh, insane. Commodity. You have just, having had a really bad start to this game, getting caught out 3 times, you are now the most valuable player on the map. Incredible.
I really just can't quite believe it, but it is worth pointing out, of course, this is a draft league, which means that,
Yeah, that's
sometimes you might find synergy between teams is not great. Sometimes communication can be a bit difficult, but I will still stand by there is no excuse. If Food Fighters are watching this back, or if anyone else is watching this, you have to be aware of what can take your objectives away, and they were aware of that clearly, because you did see the captain was zoning away commodity as best they could, but you can't zone away and I'm a monster like that. It just doesn't work. And yeah, now that this next fire giant is coming up, first of all, food fighters should not be the aggressors. They are now down quite a bit of gold. But they also, if they are going to aggress on this objective, they need to be fully aware of where commodity is. And it looks like they've finally tracked them down. The cavalry charge from a long way away does not manage to catch up. There's the armor monster burned away. But now diving into this fight early on was Papoose, and falls down again to commodity. We talked about how mages are back, and commodity is showing that in spades.
Such a good Rivers Rebuke there as well from Caraval, just completely locked Papoose in place, and this is almost like a game that is being played the opposite way for both teams. This is how I expected casual mains to play. Struggle early. This is how I expected casual mains to play. Be really aggressive early on, but then struggle as the game got into its later stages. But we're seeing the opposite. They started behind and are now coming back into this. And Bubby has had to use the ultimate there. Onto Shadowstalker, though that is the pick, it means the Scylla can breathe a little bit easy for this fight.
There's no Windfire wheels coming through, but that doesn't seem to matter because the target is still Scylla. There is Red Ral picking off King Vlad, and that's 2 picks now in favor of Food Fighters. We've seen this story before. Food Fighters take the better of the fights, but then can they take the objectives? That was another artillery sash. Absolutely nailing these shots is Bubby, and now commodity does fall down from all of the damage coming out from Zelda. Another good stun coming out from the cavalry charge. On the retreat now is Wipe My Assy. Aegis is used too early from Zelda, though, and will fall down. They do manage to take off the Cupid, and now a lot of kills going away, and the fire giant being started up. Finally, Food Fighters can get this objective that they've been looking for and take their time, because there is no commodity Scylla on the map.
No, this is a safe fire giant. Okay, if your Moja steals this, then I'm done with Smite.
Still asking where Scylla is.
Yeah, if you ask where Scylla is. But these team fights are messy. They're untidy. And it's great. These are the kind of games that are so entertaining to cast, because you literally do not know what is going to happen next. Phoenix taking damage from the Trebuchet, though. I don't know if that's quite got enough to finish the Phoenix. But yeah, not quite enough juice. But yeah, the positioning so far from Commodity, they have to be careful. That they've gotten out by the skin of their teeth a couple of times now, and at this stage of the game, they are essential to their team's victory in these team fights. They have to stay alive. They have to be a little bit more careful with those lives. Now that the actives or the beads is down for sure, they need to be asking a question now, Judas. They need to be saying, where is Neja?
Funnily enough, the Rivers Rebuke and Eagles Riley combo just then was massive for casual needs, but there was just no follow-up ready. Commodity didn't seem to be quite in as good enough position, and then but the magic shell comes out from the captain, just means that that phantom shell just carries you on out of that fight safely. So now it looks like it is the turn of Food Fighters to sweep through these towers, but getting really aggressive is Shadowstalker, looking like they just want to ward, it turns out, but I was expecting a potential leap right on over the wall. Commodity frontlining there, so needs to be careful. Does have to sentinel on away. Taking their time, with some of these pushes are food fighters, but it looks like they're just going to settle for the GoldFury for now.
Yeah, I'm not sure what Bubby spotted there, but they blinked through the wall to try and engage onto the Scylla, but Scylla had already gone. That's quite a big active to be down because obviously that's going to be using to get close to this Scylla when fights start up. But Food Fighters done the right thing this time. They've taken the objective. They've zoned away with the captain and quite comfortably take the GoldFury.
Yeah, take the GoldFury down again peacefully. No contention coming out from casual mains. Can't really step up in this situation. It's just how it goes when you're losing all these team fights. You know, they're dropping at least 1 or 2 kills very early on in the fights, and then as the fight gets extended, the sustain coming out from Papoose, and of course the self-healing from Bubby does make a lot of difference. And a huge long-range artillery sash again from Bubby should manage to take down Wipe My Assy, and yes, they do. This fight continues under the tier 2 tower. Has not yet quite fallen, but it will now be taken down by Red Brow. Leaping forward, right into the thick of things is Shadow Stalker, but can they find enough damage? Yes, they can. They take down the boy Bubby, and there is a big armor monster coming through. Taken down now is the Osiris, but finding a lot of damage is Commodity yet again. A lot of space this Scylla had is 3 versus 3 on the left-hand side of the map. It looks like Casual Mains will give up the chase. They do lose the tier 2 tower, but against Fire Giant, that is a decent fight to take.
Yeah, Shadowstalker played the Osiris jungle role nearly perfectly there. Yes, they went down, but the fight looked like it was going nowhere, and then a big Lord of the Afterlife onto 2, and it's like it's cat amongst the pigeons, isn't it? Your whole team is like, oh god, there's an Osiris here. They have to turn and face it, and it basically causes everyone to turn around, look at the Osiris, and then Commodity was on hand, big I'm a monster, big crush to follow up as well, and that's what Shadowstalker needs to do more often. Have that aggression, have that belief that you can get in there and cause damage, but you also need the confidence that the follow-up damage is going to come. And as you mentioned before, it's difficult with a draft league. These players may not be too familiar and comfortable with each other's playstyles yet, but in an ideal team, that's what happens. In goes Shadowstalker, follows up with a big damage from the rest of the team.
An interesting flex just now from Wipe My Ass. He bought 2 power potions, used them both. So, double power, I guess, coming out for this Cupid right now. Hoping to be hitting very, very hard. Of course, has fully committed to this Griffin Wing style attack speed build. Does have the Gilded Arrow upgraded as well. So, we'll have to see some fancy stuff coming through. That is a Book of the Dead proc, though, onto Commodity. So, an important cooldown now off the table for another minute or so. Right in time for this Fire Giant to spawn. It's been looking good for the Food Fighters, aside from a few shaky few minutes. But I don't know. Do you think they have what it takes to clear this game out?
They just have to, their play has been fine so far. They just have to be smarter when dealing with objectives. Maybe they've recognized the threat of Commodity now they've started to swing on this Scylla. But the difficulty here for casual mains is that so much is riding on Commodity and Wipe My Assy because they're the main sources of damage. It's all good and well having the other 3 alive, but they're not exactly going to win a team fight on their own. They have to have the damage from the rest of the team. So if you are Food Fighters, if you can just get one of those picked, if you can get Wipe My Assy or you can get Commodity off the table, the team fight it's not really a 5 versus 4, is it? If one of them are down, it's more like like a 5 versus 3.5, because the damage just isn't there from everybody else. And to be fair, Bubby has done a pretty good job of it so far. They've managed to get to that backline and get the targets that they need to. If they carry that on, I do think that Food Fighters will take this. But I guess this next Fire Giant is pretty big actually. This is a big call because we're at the stage where birds are going to start falling if Fire Giant goes one team's way.
Of course, due to the intermission, you could say, of Casual Mains having a few minutes of stellar performance, having gotten the Fire Giant sneakily away. It is now Enhanced Fire Giant. We have ticked on past that 30-minute mark, so neither team wanting to commit to it because, as I said, Food Fighters cannot contest an objective. They do have to take the fight early on, so stepping way forward into enemy jungle are the Food Fighters right now. The target appears to be King Vlad, who does Eagle's Rally right in place into the whole enemy team, but falls down for it. Lifted to the sky is Shadow Stalker as well, can leap on out to safety. That's a Fields of Love drop down as well. A lot of space control given up from Casual Mains, and they don't get a lot for it, but is that enough for Food Fighters to take this Fire Giant?
It's a good fight for them because there's a lot of ultimates taken off the table, but the one that matters isn't. It's still up. It's still there to steal. Are they asking the question, Judas? We need to know. Do they know where this Scylla is? Because she is lurking.
To know. They don't seem to know, and Scylla clearly wants the opportunity. Has popped the I'm a Monster, is in position, steps onto a wall. The Fire Giant's low health, pops it too early, and they don't manage to secure it. The Fire Giant does go the way of the Food Fighters. Now, can they take the fight afterwards to carry on with it? And yes, they can. Shadowstalker falls down as Bubby gets out alive, being chased away now is Commodity. But there's a Wild Hunt, doesn't quite connect, but a lot of damage coming up to this Scylla. They're giving chase, nice ice wall. But actually, no, it's not a nice ice wall. That's a friendly ice wall.
Terrible ice wall.
That's a terrible ice wall for that situation. But now there is the Phoenix under siege. There's a lot of damage coming on to Cadville Karma as well. They do get walled in. That's a nice ice wall. Right Phoenix does go down. Fight goes away of Food Fighters. They might be looking for the end.
Yeah, and do you know what? It's so unlucky. Commodity was what 2 seconds too early on the I'm a Monster, and it would have 100% stolen because the Food Fighters had no idea where the Scylla was. They didn't ask the question, Judas. They did not know where the Scylla was. But it went their way. But by hook or by crook, they've got the Fire Giant. They've taken a Phoenix, and now they are looking to put the pressure on. I think they've taken the conservative approach here in cleaning up the towers rather than going straight for the end. But considering they've now dropped all 3 Phoenixes, it's hard to say that was the wrong call.
His last chance for loot. Saloon now for Casual Mains is in some trouble yet again as King Vlad gets locked in by the entire enemy team and falls down early on. It is 3 versus 5. 5 with Enhanced Fire Giant. It is the 3 and the Titan with a dream. They start to swing away at these minions. Bubby misses a sash. That's not something I've said too often this game. Titan's already at half health. I'm a Monster does not connect. Fields of Love comes down. There's the River's Rebuke too, but the Titan is just too low health, and it does fall down. Food Fighters will take this first game in, aside from a 5-minute spell, pretty convincing fashion.
Yeah, like you say, there was a brief window in the middle where it looked like they'd completely just thrown everything away. But yeah, a deserved victory in the end. I think they fought. They played the team fights very, very well, and they played their draft very, very well. And they dealt with how Casual Main's draft was needed to be played. They countered that pretty well. They were very patient with when the Bellona and the Osiris were engaging. They sort of backed off a little bit and said, do your thing. We know where the damage is. And the standout player for me there was Bubby. Their job in that game was take away the backline. They did it to perfection. Constantly sashing the Scylla, constantly sashing the Cupid. That's who they needed to take down. That's who they did. So yeah, very, very well played.
Yeah, they had a really, really good time of it, of course. And now we do check out the scoreline now, and we can see that Bubby did manage to get top kills in the game. Unsurprisingly, he was quite high up on the damage charts for quite some time too. He did eventually get overtaken by Zelda and Commodity. But, that's just the life of a jungler. You go in, you get your kill. That's your business out of the way. But, yeah, wipe my ass. He didn't really get the space for us to really see this build in full action. I'm thinking maybe Cupid might not be the best god for this style of build. You want to be doing a lot of damage with the Heart Bomb, with your Fields of Love. So I could maybe see that build elsewhere. But, it's always nice to see things attempted. And I can't say it was too terrible, just maybe overshadowed a touch by Red Ral on the Kernos there. But, of course, we do have to touch on Zelda on the Morgan Le Fay. Top damage in the game. We mentioned it's maybe not the safest of picks, but what a performance for Morgan Le Fay. And this might be a god that finds itself sneaking into the meta, maybe.
Yeah, I can certainly see that potentially being the case. It's the damage that Morgan can put out is crazy, and there's always a trade-off with any gods in Smite, and the ones that don't have much mobility often do a little bit more damage. The fact that they don't have any mobility, and if you're playing in a comp where you've got protection, i.e. a Ymir, then if they can't get to you, you're gonna have a good time. Do you know what I mean? Because you can just throw out the damage. The peel was exceptional from the captain. To be honest, they just played the draft really well. It was almost like old school Smite, where each role did what it was supposed to do. The jungler was looking to kill the backline. The front line was looking, Guam was engaging. Ymir was protecting. And Zelda was just free casting at the back. They played like an old school style of Smite, like season 2 and 3. And they played it well. Really, really well done from Food Fighters.
Yeah, it's awesome. They just did a really good job of playing this traditional style comp and just playing it well. There's a reason, as has been said many times in the past, that traditional Smite is traditional Smite. So we'll have to see if traditional Smite can continue to win out. But we'll be going to a short break, and we'll be coming back for game number 2 between Casual Mains and Food Fighters. Do not go anywhere. All right, welcome back, of course, to the Reap Smite League. Yet again, I'm Judas Priestley, joined today by Kara. We are watching Food Fighters versus Casual Mains, and we did see Food Fighters take a Game 1 victory in pretty convincing fashion.
Yep, as you said on the wrap up, they played the draft well, they played their comp well, and they actually played the opponent comp pretty well as well. But it perfect. Let's be honest, it wasn't perfect. They nearly lost. They lost 2 and nearly lost 3 big map objectives just from, I don't know what the word is. Is it lack of awareness, not knowing where the enemy was, not knowing the game state? So convincing, but there's an Achilles heel to this.
Yes.
Casual Mains could steal this away. Game 2.
Yeah, every team has a weakness, of some kind, and I mean, unfortunately for Food Fighters, Casual Mains seem to capitalize on it pretty well. In fact, I would argue, and we did discuss in the post game, between games, I should say, that that third fire giant probably should have gone the way of Casual Mains. They had Scylla in position with the Armor Monster, and just popped the ult a little bit too early. Unfortunately, maybe didn't have vision, couldn't quite tell exactly how much health the fire giant had, but with the position that they found themselves in, that almost should have been a steal. But according to Food Fighters, A, the Scylla is not worth banning away, and B, the main strength of their composition in the past game was the Guan Yu. They decided to top pick it yet again. Well, actually, they didn't top pick it last time, but they've decided to top pick it this time because they enjoyed it so much last time. Would you maybe agree with that one, Kara?
I think they could have top picked any of their 5 in the last draft. I think they all played pretty well. I thought the Neja might have been the top pick considering it wasn't banned. I'm also surprised it wasn't banned because Bubby played pretty well on the Neja. So
if you check again, Kara, if you take
sorry,
a bit of a closer look.
It's late. It's late here in the UK. I take everything back that I just said. Yeah, no, the Guan played well. The Guan harassed quite well, and they did their job basically. But it has left quite a lot open to the Casual Mains, including one of Guan Yu's biggest counters, Cthulhu.
Yeah, Cthulhu, of course, one of those gods that just has absolutely monumental team fight presence. And if there's one thing that you would say Casual Mains were really lacking in that last game, it was team fight presence. They did a good job of taking some objectives, probably took more major objectives overall, or at least equal. It was very close in that number. They didn't get stomped on these major objectives, but it just every team fight seemed to go the way of Food Fighters. So you'd imagine they're going to try to keep that one together. And funnily enough, Kara, in a good way to counter a Cthulhu who has just a much better team fight presence than you, one way you can do that is by picking up the Morrigan and actually taking that Cthulhu ult for yourself.
Yes, it's going to be very difficult to see what's going on in this game, I can imagine, with 2 descents into madness going on at once. But one of Cthulhu's biggest strengths into Guan is as soon as Guan starts that Talu's Assault, you can almost confirm the 2 hits of your 2, which means that you can confirm the 3 and then the 1, and you've instantly started stacking your passive. That is such an underrated thing because it's difficult to get that on other lane opponents. But if your opponent is stood relatively still because they have to do for their main source of clear, Cthulhu should be coming to this mid game with, at least 5% extra mitigation from that passive being stacked. And I'm interested in the Rama pick, to be honest. Rama does do quite well into Cthulhu. Of course, he can shred him down. Of course, he can. But I'm surprised to see it so high up. I'm thinking this may be a comfort pick. Maybe Red Ral, this is a comfort pick for Rama. And this is something that should never be discounted, actually. Me and you, Judas, we cast, we play, we watch a lot of Smite. And I often see casters, when they're going through picks and bans, be critical of certain picks. And they're discounting the fact that this could just be a comfort pick. Yeah. And if you're really good on certain gods, then a comfort pick is better to you than the meta. because this is what you're comfortable with. So I'm expecting to see big things now from Red Ral on this Rama. They put pressure on themselves by me saying this. So good luck.
Yeah, you do tend to find Rama at the moment does very well with this crit style build coming through. Obviously, Cthulhu, will get shredded by it, but that crit style build doesn't get kin size until quite late. So might see some mid game flashiness coming through. But Izanami locked in. Actually, this is a god carrier that a lot of people are putting high up on their lists. Unfortunately, that list is one of the worst gods in the game. And Izanami finds themselves quite prevalent on that. And I don't know, would you agree with that?
Yes, I don't rate Izanami as a pick, but again, I've just said it could be a comfort pick. It could be something that wiped my assy. With a name like that, it suggests they probably played a fair bit of Izanami.
Izanami does have the same passive as Assy. So...
Yeah, and when you get them doubled up together, you get those clutch 1v1 moments. But I'm not concerned about the Izanami pick. I'm concerned about the Izanami and Kernanos picks together.
Oh, of course, yeah.
This is double hunter comp. So far we've got double hunter, double tank. It can work, but if it means that Kern or Izanami is going into the jungle, then this Nemesis that has been locked in by Food Fighters is going to have a good time, I believe, because I don't think she fares too well I don't think they fare too well into Nemesis.
It is important to note as well, with a Guan Yu Yamoja pairing coming out from Food Fighters, that just screams out, hey, we need anti-heal, right? And Kernanos and Izanami do not do a good job of applying that anti-heal, and neither does Geb. It's really only Cthulhu and now Set being picked up to apply that, and Set also maybe not the best applier of it. So, healing could come through strong if these fights tend to go on for a little bit longer or a little bit extended. You would have to say that favors Food Fighters overall. But casual mains going in with an aggressive style, not quite the double warrior that you touched on. Interesting that they've gone from double warrior to no warriors. Maybe they've scrapped that idea. But as you look at these two lineups now and you expect casual mains to come in swinging, if you assume that game number one didn't happen, which side are you going to lean towards in terms of draft?
That's a really tough question. I think if casual mains can play these gods well, I think that this is a strong draft. Some might be saying it lacks magical damage, but because of the strength of hunters these days, I don't think that's necessarily a thing anymore. We spoke before about how there's drafts in the SPL where there isn't a mage picked. Well, here's one right here. You can certainly get enough damage out of your hunters without needing to rely on a mage. I just think if you can play this hunter mid well, as if so you're not feeling like you're disadvantaged, I do think I prefer the casual mains draft just because it's so in your face. You can't ignore a Cthulhu, you can't ignore a Geb, you can't ignore a Set. You definitely can't ignore all three of them. And I'm just concerned at the lack of burst damage from the Food Fighters to deal with this Set when he dives in. Who is your burst damage here? There isn't any. There's no mage to burst them down. Okay, you could say Morrigan, but it's only really the stun, and then she's got to change or get out of there. So I'm liking casual mains draft. If they play aggressive and they go for it from the start, I'm putting my chips on their side of the table.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, especially because in generally you'd like to see just an instant stun available to you, and they just don't have that on the side of Foo Fighters. But we'll see how this pans out as we do get on into this game to actually see on how these two sides stack up. But there is clearly an opportunity, like you've said, Kara, for Shadowstalker this time, who did play aggressively in game number one, mind you, to just get in the face of the enemy team and, well, maybe try to shut them down.
What is going on in left side jungle is what I want to know.
It's an interesting ward coverage to try to catch out the captain taking away this purple buff, but they've spotted it now. They're not doing anything about it, and it looks like this purple buff will get stolen yet again by Food Fighters early on. So casual mains just not aware of the situation, it seems, and are taking a lot of unnecessarily losses.
Judas, the weird thing is, I think they were aware of it. Their ward coverage pretty much made it obvious that that's what was going to happen. That they had the ward coverage on the Umoja, but do you think they just said, do you know what? There's not a great deal we can do to stop Umoja with this duo lane? Maybe.
Yeah, I think it was worth it. You pointed out in game number one they actually did okay despite losing purple buff last time. So maybe they're just thinking, you know
Yeah,
what, let's just take it again, see what happens, and go from there. You know, and interestingly, actually, it is actually the Kurninos in the dual lane and Izanami in the middle lane. Maybe not exactly what I was expecting, but you know, you do tend to find that Izanami has a slightly better secure when it comes to objectives than Kurninos does.
yeah. There is not a chance. I mean, we don't cast the Reap League often, so we don't know these players. There is not a chance that Commodity is just trying this Izanami out. This must be something they've ran before and they're
Yep.
comfortable on. If you can get ahead in this mid lane on Izanami, this could actually be a stroke of genius, because although Izanami isn't highly rated amongst the meta, it doesn't mean that she doesn't do damage, because she does. And
Yeah.
against the Morrigan, you've only got to avoid one ability, really. Um, this may be. The more I'm looking at this game, and the more I'm thinking Casual Mains may have drafted really, really well here.
Yeah, it definitely is possible, right? You don't look at this and think it's a complete draft diff. Like in the late game stage, I think Food Fighters do have a really strong composition, especially with Rama available. Obviously, going to be hitting hard late game with a Morrigan to maybe duplicate that Rama does mean that objectives could be shredded extremely quickly. Double stun comes out there from the captain and takes away these harpies on the left hand side. Need to be careful there. Is Cadvil Karma gets dashed on by the Rama here as Red Raw wants to get aggressive. Casual means don't drop first blood, but they get a bit close to it. Certainly need to be more and more careful.
Yeah, and this is not a lane that the Food Fighters should be having the pressure on here. Rama's got probably the worst 1 to 5 of any hunter. And yet, Geb does okay, Kern does okay. They should really be the ones in the ascendancy here. Is this just the Purple Wolf Invade diff? I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure it would entirely come on down to that. Of course, Umoja does have pretty decent clear, but you fire off one too many abilities aggressively and trying to hit your opponent rather than the minions, and you just find yourself giving up some pressure. And as much as pressure isn't vitally important at this point, you don't really want to be giving it up. So, I wish there was a way we could also keep an eye on King Vlad's stacks on this Cthulhu passive, because, like you said,
I was
that
just
should be
about to
stacking up
say
quite
that.
quickly.
I was just about to say that. It'd be great if we could actually see that, because that's a dream
Oh,
matchup. That big
oh
invade here,
no.
though.
Oh, puts the shell onto the ADC. I'm not sure that was the intended target. And Cadvil Karma has nowhere to go, cannot get out of range, and First Blood goes the way of Food Fighters and get off to another good start in this game.
Yeah, if there's anybody on the map you want to get first blood, it's Red Ral on the Rama. You don't want to be falling behind on Rama. I've been there many times, and let me tell you, there is not much more of a miserable dual lane experience than playing Rama from behind.
Of course, you will be swinging pretty hard with those autos as the game goes on. This Rama, as I've just said, does very well with the current Dev's Gloves builds that tend to go into crit, but can also go into more of that pen shred style Silver Branch build. Rama's just pretty versatile at the moment. So yeah, I'm happy to see the pick come through. But if you're casual mage, you're certainly not happy about it getting a kill early on, because if this Rama gets ahead, maybe makes a quick rotation to mid, gets some snipes into the mid lane, it can get out of control. Rama's one of those gods, right? This hyper carry style that can just go nuts in the mid game if given the chance.
Yeah, and do you know what? I don't think the presence of the Geb is necessarily going to be enough to deter them from going down the crit route. They may still go that route, but I think they have to go shred here. I'd like to see the Kins XE route, purely because this Cthulhu could potentially, be a huge factor for casual mains.
Yeah, and of course you tend to find if your ADC is spending the entire fight shooting at Cthulhu, that should be a one fight for the Cthulhu, because that's a lot of damage going into one target. But if you do go that shred build, it can take the Cthulhu down quicker. If Cthulhu maybe comes into this mid game with not a good lead, you might find that it might be an easier target than expected. But I'm sure we'll be seeing some Power Ranger style Megazord fights going on between the Cthulhu and the Morrigan at some point. That's just a necessity, but in a little bit of trouble maybe here as level 5 comes out. There's the Wild Hunt, there's the Cataclysm, doesn't even need all of it, and the Captain goes down. That's firing back, this time casual mains, in a much earlier kill than they got in the previous game. That's got to feel good for the mentals.
Yeah, I think the captain was caught a little bit casual there, really, putting pressure on two to try and save a mid camp, a side camp. Kind of made it fairly easy. And unfortunately for them, they just hit level 5 from the camp, which brought the
Yeah.
Cataclysm and the Wild Hunt online, which pretty much spelt curtains. Yeah, unfortunate for the captain.
Yeah, we've mentioned it before that it's just very important to note, especially in dual lane more than anything, when you hit level 5, because
Yeah.
I mean, two ultimates at level 5 is just really good. It does a lot of damage, does exactly what you need, and yeah, unfortunately, therefore, the captain didn't really respect the situation, and was going into that fight at like 40% health, not a lot of Omi, and yeah, he finds himself getting caught and getting killed off, but. Another snooze fest in the mid lane, Kara, as we've sort of been used to seeing lately. Both mid laners wanting to just sort of farm up and show up in the mid to late game.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a snooze fest, I'm afraid. Morrigan and Izanami both don't really come online for a good few minutes yet, so I can't see them hard committing onto each other. Umoja doesn't really have the potential to hard commit and cause an encounter. She's more just like, once the fight started, I'm going to control how this goes. But Cthulhu is in a little bit of trouble here because Nemesis will be taking them protections away, but he might just be tanky enough to survive this, and he is. As you notice, I am a solo laner by nature. I've played and seen a lot of solo laning, and it does always. I'm always a bit wary about when you're laning against a particular type of opponent and you go into split protections first. I don't know if you're getting the value out of that first item. Um, I feel you just go hard into one protection if you're going to go defensive because you're going to get a lot of value out of it.
Yeah, and actually both solo laners sort of going for that. Neither one committing to a full-on defensive item. I'm not sure if I agree with Papoose there, going for the cavalry charge when the Descent into Madness had already come out. You sort of trade one ult for one ult, and that's fine. But committing two ults onto that Cthulhu when there's basically no kill potential, it sort of leaves you, a little bit underwhelming. Now for the next few minutes or few moments at least, there is no ultimate coming up from the jungle from Bubby. So a lot of safety for the rest of casual mains as, whoa, Wild Hunt goes off, rolling Assault out of there from Red Ral. And that's an easy trade, and that's a win for the Food Fighters.
Yeah, and I'm actually going to do something I don't do very often here, Judas. I'm actually going to disagree with you on the cavalry charge. And when Cthulhu is up in his descent into madness, he's quite easy to hit. And cavalry charge, each successive hit, the damage stacks up and gets more and more to the point where if you land every single hit, it's actually the most damaging warrior's ability in the game. Did you know that?
Did not know
So
that.
I guess if you're gonna take down a Cthulhu, and your nemesis is hard committed to it, just go for it and try and hit them with everything you can. And I'm assuming that's what Papoose was going for there with the multiple hits. They may get what they're after here, though. Taliban Assault will finish them off. They finally take down the Cthulhu. But yeah, I think that's what they were going for because, what's the worst that can happen if it doesn't come off?
Oh dear, that's a rollout into danger. Farther on, the other roll gets caught by the knockup as well. Wipe my assy. Takes down Red Raw there with the help of the support. So it's 2 kills to 2 now. Casual mains fighting back early on, but here comes the backups coming through to avenge their fallen brother. Dashing forward is Bubby. Cannot find the damage though. A lot of high health bars for casual mains means Food Fighters just have to take the consolation prize of the purple buff. Or have I spoken too soon? As a River's Rebuke comes through, dashing forward. Again, there's no dash available to the Cardinals. Has to burn the Purification Beast. Finally now can charge on out. But maybe an overcommitment from Bubby. But there's some good peel coming out. There's another go on you with a cavalry charge. Instant stun coming through. The chase all the way from the backside now from casual mains. But no real commitment from either side. It means that both teams get away with all players alive. And, well, some interesting fireworks, but not a whole lot of substance.
Yeah, it was like a bunch of kids fighting, and the guardians were the parents who just walked in and went, "We're going to stop this in its tracks," and they just picked everyone up by the scruff of their neck.
None of this right now.
Yeah, none of this right now. Break it up. Yeah, the Geb, the emoji basically shut that fight down with some very, very good support play. And supports don't often get the the credit they deserve because they're not the ones getting all the kills. But they basically stopped lots of people dying in that fight there. Well played from both supports.
Yeah, you have to give the credit. It's not bad play from the damage dealers. It was just good play from the support players. But now good play from casual mains as they've recognized an opportunity at this Pyromancer. And we discussed casual mains previously had some good calls on objective play. And now they walk up, take down an objective, and walk away pretty much for free. So another good call by Casual Mains gets themselves into a little bit of a gold lead.
Yeah, we've obviously only seen casual mains for a game and 11 minutes, but I think one thing they do well is their objective play, whether they're stealing it or committing to it at the right time. I don't think they've made a bad objective call yet in this, in the time that we've seen them. So yeah, they good one. They stole the pyromancer away there under the noses of food fighters. They had no idea it was going on. Oh, big cataclysm though, but unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be enough to save him.
Caught in the middle of absolutely everyone is Cadvil Karma, and as if they couldn't get any worse, another player shows up as Redral makes the rotation over, perfectly positioned for this GoldFury now. But
the steals on.
Casual Mains have what they want. They are in position. We've seen them steal objectives in the past. Wild Hunt comes through just a touch too early. Does drop the GoldFury very, very low, but they drop it back and forth, and Food Fighters do end up securing it. Almost there, coming through. Commodity had ultimate, though. The Dark Portal was available. If they just thrown that out, that would have been the stolen objective yet again. Now, it's a good win for Food Fighters, good for the mentals as well, because you don't want to drop another objective to a steal like that. So maybe this time, Food Fighters have gotten their act together.
It sounds harsh because it was 4 against 2, but I actually think Casual Mains could have stole that if they committed to that. The Wild Hunt, to be fair, the Wild Hunt was actually timed perfectly, but the Food Fighters dropped the GoldFury just at the right moment, so it healed up enough to not take the hits. Whether that was intentional or not, I don't know, but it did save it from getting stolen. And I think what then happened was Commodity and Shadowstalker came round the corner thinking, okay, what's going on here? And then maybe almost like rabbit in headlights were like, there's 4 of them there. But I think if they went in, they could have got that because the GoldFury was very, very low. The Kingslayer certainly had enough AoE damage and tick damage to potentially steal that. But casual mains, there's no such thing as a free objective for Food Fighters. They are always there waiting for it to get low on health. And if they keep that up, that's how you stay in touch with an enemy and just constantly put that element of doubt in their mind when they start up an objective.
Yeah, cluttering the comms and everything, or every little detail does matter in competitive games when you get to a tight situation. Of course, but you have to point out yet again, both of these two teams are 2-0. There's the madness coming through, but now a lot of damage being pumped into this Cthulhu. The Cthulhu Assault will still steal some protections. A lot of damage being done, and the big beast in the sky will fall down to Bubby. So they do take down this big target. No objectives up on the map, but that's a nice little win for Food Fighters yet again, who are now starting to steamroll back into this game.
Yeah, they've got the last couple of kills now. They're starting to slowly win their engages. And I said in the last game that I find junglers are spending too much time in right lane, in right side jungle lately, especially when the solo laners are back to being tanks. But it's actually proved quite beneficial here for Bubby because they've got 2 kills now onto this Cthulhu, and they've taken the jungle twice from doing it. So what do I know? Hey, I just should keep quiet on jungle related matters.
Yes, what do you know, Carol? We'll have to see what you do know as you get to keep analyzing this game for a little while longer, because this has been a relatively slow start. Only the 6 kills at the 14-minute mark, but has been evenly matched across the board. There's a bit of a lead now starting to form for Food Fighters, but it's certainly nothing major and nothing that Casual Mains couldn't fight back from. Interesting to note, both equal in levels on this left-hand side, as for Casual Mains, White Mayazi has had all of the kills, does charge forward, countered out by the roll defensively, but now nowhere to go. Does this Rama have, but a nice purification beads will save them from the Cataclysm and the Wild Hunt to follow. Wondering though why they didn't just go into the Astral Barrage. I think maybe that would have been a better option, especially because they did have backup coming from the captain.
Yeah, potentially. I can see their thought process there. When you go up into an Astral Barrage, though they were never in a position to get a kill from it. It was kind of just to delay things, but you don't know what's going to be waiting for you when you come back down. For all they knew, there was a set waiting in that jungle to be sat when they come back down. So I can appreciate the approach there. Just beads, get out, regroup, go again.
Regroup and go again. Do the duo lanes of both teams. They both regroup for another 2v2 skirmish in the left-hand side for that Indra's Scepter, which does go the way of Casual Mains. Not too much value, of course, in the Scepter at this stage, just a little bit of extra damage onto some minions, but, nobody tends to use the fact that you can heal the towers, because you're hardly going to up and take Wipe My Assy from the left-hand side of the map to the right side to heal up that solo lane tower. So it's unfortunately one function of the scepter that does go amiss. But we're seeing both teams as their builds start to come online. We do see the Shadow Seal Shuriken coming out from Red Ral, so it might be more of that crit style build coming through. And you mentioned you might want to see them go for a shred build, but are you happy with this pickup so far?
A fight in
Never
mid lane.
mind.
We'll talk about it after.
Yeah, never mind. A big scrap goes down. There is a nice shell coming through to save the life of Bubby there coming through, or Shadow Stalker that was. But never mind, because Zelda dives all the way under the tier 2 tower and will take a lot of damage for their troubles. Can they get on out? As the actual Guan Yu has shown up. But there's Cthulhu can't spot out where the invisible Morrigan is. Is actually chasing literal shadows right now. As Cthulhu has to go all the way back to their blue buff, can't find the enemy. And that is a relatively cheap kill for Food Fighters to pick up after quite a big commitment from them.
Yeah, I always appreciate a clever Morrigan change, and how often is Guan the solution to change into to get a kill?
Yeah.
But they did it perfectly there. Change into Guan, cavalry charge on the tower. It actually confused me because I thought it was the Guan Yu that was actually doing the pursuing. It was only when it came up with Morrigan's picture on screen that I was like, oh, that was a Morrigan change. Very well thought, very quick. Because is it instinctively there for you to change to Guan, or would you be thinking, okay, Rama here or whatever? But no, well played.
Yeah, I think Rama might have been a better option overall, but if you just want to get in there and maybe secure it, then I think that's probably a good way to do it. And of course, did have the tankiness to get out of that dive. Does changing into the Guan Yu. So Zelda making a good choice. Clearly experienced player on this Morrigan pickup, which you don't tend to find too much in these lower sorts of levels of competitive play. Morrigan, of course, the only very hard god in the game, Kara, and will continually, and this is an interesting discussion, Morrigan will always be the hardest god in the game, because if they ever make a god that is more difficult to play than Morrigan, the Morrigan can transform into that god, which means Morrigan is always equally difficult.
Yeah. Even more difficult than Vamana, which, the difficulty is staying awake while you're playing Vamana. But yeah, Morrigan is it's a god that I'm just surprised we don't see more of. That there is so much play potential with Morrigan. There's so much that they can do. Highlight real stuff. Big changes. Dukes with the clone. I've seen games where people have sent the clone out and it's taken a Thanatos ult, and then it's just so entertaining when it's played well, but you just don't see it. You just really do not see much Morrigan played. So I'm all for this, Zelda. More of this, please.
Giving chase is Bubby on to White by Assy. There's a Purification Beads onto the Wild Hunt, swinging and slashing and cutting down this Kerninos. And now it is just for Kadovul Kama to watch as their main point of damage falls down early on. But a teleport across the map coming through from King Vlad. They smell blood on this GoldFury. It's not being started up by Food Fighters just yet, but maybe Casual Means might want to be the aggressors.
Yeah, and the next objectives are big ones because it's Oni Fury gives you entire map pressure, and it's the perfect way to set up for a fire giant because the opponent can't just ignore those lanes. I'm looking at the secure though. I wouldn't say there's a great deal of secure on either side. So I don't think we're going to get much of a highlight reel like we saw in the last game. It's only really the Izza that might have it, the Izza or the Astral Barrage.
Looking at Red Relic here, but I'm also looking on the right-hand side of the map, but the Food Fighters do secure that Pyromancer. Can Red Relic goes up into the sky, goes for the shot, does get it!
Gets it!
Steals it away, someone gets it. It might have been Zelda instead in the mid lane, again, turning into the Guan Yu, transforms, swings through, gets the Tallow Assault, knock up immunity, can't find the last little shot though, but that's still another big objective steal in this set, but it's this time Food Fighters taking that claim down. They also get a tier 1 tower in the process, and this is the actual cavalry charge coming through. Poor White Biasi has just respawned from the base and has to walk all the way back through that black and white screen. Unfortunately now for Casual Mains, it is all sort of falling apart at the seams. Stepping too far forward is King Vlad, gets a nice Earth Shield, but it's not enough. Zelda yet again taking over in this game, and what a swing for the Food Fighters.
How is Ral level 18 at 1-1? I wondered why that King Vlad was getting destroyed by the Rama there, because I was thinking they don't have too much online in terms of damage or penetration. And then I looked at the level. They're level 18. They have been farming well in this game. They are 2 levels ahead of their opposing dual lane partner without killing them.
Yep. without killing them, and now Fire Giant is the call for Food Fighters. They don't have a whole lot to worry about, but the Dark Portal from Commodity, it's the same player making the same play, this time on Ward Vision though, and spotted out on the backside, does burn the Purification Beads, does dash under the wall, but then they have low health on the Fire Giant. They can't get the Dark Portal off. Here comes Gepto with a knockup and steals it with a knockup. I don't believe it again. Another objective steal for Casual Mates. They take another Fire Giant from Food Fighters from right under their noses. Another River's Rebuke though comes on through, locks in both frontliners for Casual Mains. Someone is surely going to be the sacrificial lamb here. It doesn't look like it is going to be Cadville Karma. They will fall down early on, and this time the damage now going on to King Vlad. Descends into madness just to try to escape, but another Fire Giant steal for Casual Mains. Food Fighters just cannot lock these objectives down.
Oh, Judas. Losing it once was bad. Losing it twice was really bad. Losing it 3 times to a Geb this time. Oh, secure the area before you start up the Fire Giant because you're gifting the opponent a way back into the game. Oh, fair play though to Cadville for getting over there, and was it the knock-up they stole it with of all things?
Either that or the set skewer, because Shadowstalker was also lurking behind the wall, which the fact that 3 players from Casual Mains were in a position to steal that's where you've got to say we need to drop this objective. You can't allow a lot of different variables to go on, because that just makes things more difficult, right? We saw Commodity lurk around. I was talking about it. I thought it was the main focus, and it appears that Food Fighters agreed with me, but they could have just dropped the objective, taken the fight, and then re-engaged on it and reset. But instead, they scrap around, someone stays on it while someone chases away Commodity, and it just leaves so much space that either Cadville Karma or Shadow Stalker gets through to steal it away. One of those players will have to tell us exactly what happened, but the crux of the matter is, Food Fighters do not have a Fire Giant, despite having a huge lead.
No, and look, when you start a Fire Giant up there, when you don't know what the game state situation is, what you're doing is you're creating a situation where it's a dice roll. And you're giving your opponent, who shouldn't even be involved in the game, roll of the dice. You know, you're giving them a number on a 6-sided dice and saying, you're in this game too, pal. And by giving them that opportunity to come in and steal, and let's be honest, they've rolled the 6 3 times, and they've gotten this window in that they shouldn't have. The Food Fighters are doing everything right, but their objective play has been so bad. Just secure the area before you do it. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with dropping the Fire Giant. Drop the Fire Giant and force the fight. It's a viable tactic. We do it all the time in our games, Judas. We start the Fire Giant fight up. We recognize there's a steal potential. And we go, do you know what? Just engage onto them. Go for it. Because they don't want to be here. They're behind. They don't want the team fight. They need to tidy this up. Because if they lose another Fire Giant in this game, oh my God, Casual Mains, they're being gifted a lifeline every time.
Yeah, they're being gifted away into the game, but Food Fighters' stronger team fight presence still seems to be paying off for them. Seems King Vlad unsure exactly of where Papoose is on the map. Can't quite connect with the damage, but they do manage to save the tier 2 tower, so it is a worthwhile teleport, but the tier 2 tower on the left side of the map will be falling down, giving chase. Oh no, it's a ring around the rosy. Oh man, the comms right now are, where did that Morrigan go? And then you have Commodity saying, I know where they are, I've got them right here. And the Teleassault will swing on through. Slice and Dice does not connect. They can't find this invisible Izanami. That's where they are. Sorry about that. Is invisibility playing a big part in this game right now, Kara? Just confusing a lot of these players.
Well, Commodities died once, and it was when they tried to go for Fire Giant. So yes, it's doing well and keeping her alive. Big River's Rebuke!
Right in place. They're not descend to madness. They don't quite have the damage, though. Rama not on scene for this fight. So King Vlad still remains alive. Double knockup comes through. Good healing coming out, but now we do have Wipe My Assy swinging those glaives through. Similarly, though, we have Red Ral churning the damage into that tower, and it will take down this tier 1 tower. Looking on the sidelines is Shadow Stalker, who's been a little bit quieter in this set than he was in the previous game. But, you know, there is still a window for the set to come online later on. But the Pyromancer now being started up. Surely this one doesn't get stolen.
Oh, I'd be going if it was. Honest to God, I really would. I think the key thing to point out here for the side of the casual mains, although they are quite a way behind now in both kills and gold, they haven't been able to get the most out of this jungle and mid laner. The Sentinels and army combined have only just got over 10k player damage. They need to start coming alive. And that's not to say this is over, by the way. That's not to say that, that they're too far behind now. Is an army can come to life with just a couple of, a couple of good hits. They haven't gone down the crit route. They've gone down the shred route. So, one prolonged fight and they can easily double that damage. Set needs to get to this backline. They have to get to the Morrigan. The problem is, are they doing this again? No.
We're doing this again, Carol. We are coming back through. Teleport in from King Vlad. Fire Giant, about 80% HP. Still committing to it, though. Are the food fighters? Finally, they do drop it. They've taken a lot of damage in the process, though. This might equalize some of this 7k gold lead that they have. Now we have a little bit of Fire Giant footsie going on. We see Shadow Stalker lurking on the right-hand side. Looking on the left-hand side is Zelda. Nobody actually starting up the Fire Giant this time. The sustain from the food fighters composition is paying off for them now as they're starting to heal all the way back up. Stepping quite far forward, gets a nice River's Rebuke, does the captain, but now the fight comes on, a big Cataclysm comes through, deals a lot of damage, but already down is the Kerners, putting out a large amount of damage, and so does Commodity, falling down, so that's a large amount of the damage off the table, but the Megazords collide in the jungle as they slap back and forth, but being chased away is the whole team for casual mains, and that is two of the big potential objective stealers off the map. But they're not even going to go for the Fire Giant. They're going to take this fight because team fighting has been their strength so far. Morrigan transforms into some stealth, gets forward, gets a kill. Up into the side goes the Astral Barrage. There's one, there's two. Doesn't even need the third shot. Cancels it and goes on down to the ground. This right side Phoenix under some pressure. Kara, this might just be the game.
This might well be the game, and you're absolutely right there, Judy. She hit the nail on the head. They said, you know what, forget this Fire Giant because we've made a mess of them all so far. Let's stick to what we are good at, and they are good at team fighting. They're very good at team fighting, and I have to give credit here to Zelda. Big plays on the Morrigan.
Oh, hold on, it might not be all she wrote just yet. Wild Hunt gets 3. A lot of damage coming through as the respawns come in. Here's Commodity back alive. They've thrown some objectives, but they throw this Titan push as well. They do have a heavenly agility to get them on out of there, though. They will sprint away for their lives, but that was looking a little bit dicey. I thought it might have been the game. So did Food Fighters. It looks like we will instead be seeing another Fire Giant push.
I think the tower in mid lane was probably the saving grace there. Just made the Titan just a little bit too tanky to be burst down. They're gonna back first before the Fire Giant, which I think is the correct call, actually. But yeah, I have to give credit to Zelda on this Morrigan. It's not a god we see often. We said it in the pre-game. But they've gotten the best out of this Morrigan for sure, although they're in a bit of a tricky situation here.
Caster's Curse coming through as we do see Zelda getting caught, surely falling down, will not pick up a kill in the meantime. And now that means that this next Fire Giant push will be in a 4 versus 5 situation for Food Fighters. Hold on, another member may be in some trouble though, because here's Papoose on the run from all 5 members. Can't really confirm their damage though, and that's a lot of abilities expended for not quite a lot of damage. Commodity is back in base, of course, having to deal with these fire minions pushing through. It's the 1v1 of the junglers, but one of them is getting a hell of a lot more of an advantage, and that's Shadow Stalker falling down. Well, the Fire Giant gets started up by casual mains. I'm not sure that's really the call in this situation. Descending into madness is King Vlad, but nowhere to go because the River's Rebuke lock down this giant monstrosity and take this solo laner off the map. Fire Giant started up.
This is
Surely
not
they
safe.
don't do it again.
This is not safe. This is not a safe Fire Giant.
It's not safe. They have ward vision of it. Commodity's in position. Has the Dark Portal ready. Fire Giant slow. They blew it early. No! And Food do secure it this time. Wipe my ass. He gets kicked off by Oi Bubby. And now chasing through this enemy support. Will go for the roll that will not escape. Cadvolkarma falls down. The Food Fighters charge down this right-hand lane led by Papoose as they chase forward. Gets the slow onto Commodity, who will dash away. Only for a little bit of safety though. This time with Fire Giant, with 4 members up and ready to swing on this Fire Giant. This time, Kara, it should be the game. Although the respawns are coming on out, I'm not going to speak too soon just yet. Coming back for the 1v1 yet again is Shadow Stalker, but cannot take it. They cannot win this fight. Again is the Cthulhu on scene. There are not any minions yet in the room. So this Titan's still chugging back and forth, dealing out a lot of damage, but the minions show up. The Titan's low health. King Vlad is down, and the Titan will fall. Food Fighters eventually manage to take this game in a 2-0 victory.
Bubby with 40k player damage to finish that one off. My player of the game, 2 games running for the Food Fighters. Incredible performance. If I'm the coach of the Food Fighters, I'm saying, okay, we are going to practice taking objectives for the next hour or so. They team fight so well, they lane so well, but I've not seen a team objective fight so badly. And it sounds like I'm being harsh and criticizing, but I say 4 out of the other 5 things that you need to be a good Smite team, they do really well. But this one is such a glaring weakness. Even the Fire Giant they got at the end, it was so close to being stolen by Commodity. That Dark Portal was again about a second late. If it's a second later, they're the ones with the Fire Giant, and you're the ones on the back foot. Clean up that objective play, guys, and you are in a good position this season.
Yeah, of course, the only team now to be having a 3-0 record at week 3 has got to be a good spot to be in. So, it's a good start overall for Food Fighters. Definitely some things to work on, but Bobby, they're 13-0 on this Nemesis. Just absolutely ran riot. We saw them play so well on Naja that it got banned. Well, he left the Nemesis open, and they also played extremely well on that. And yeah, it was just difficult for any of the members on Casual Mains to really lock anyone down. They had a decent front line, but not a whole lot of CC throughout the team. That is maybe why we're seeing mages come back to the fold a bit, because they do have CC combined with damage, and that will just allow them to work a bit better throughout these team fights. But overall, pretty simple sort of set. There's a few steals here and there from Casual Mains, but Food Fighters overall just looked a stronger team.
Yeah, they did, and every opportunity that the Casual Mains had to get back in the game was because of Food Fighters' own mistakes of dropping objectives. But yeah, a solid performance, I'd say, from Food Fighters all around. I think that there's certainly a lot of positives to take away from that. They team fought exceptionally well. Your jungler was exceptional in 2 games. Yep. And you're so. Do you know what? Credit to Papoose as well, because did they put a foot wrong in either game?
So.
Deathless in this one. I don't remember them dying too much in the other one either. Yeah, I'd be 90% happy if I was the coach here. 10% furious at those objectives.
Well, if you are the next opponent of Food Fighters, you might find yourself a little bit worried, but you do have an opportunity, of course. There's always a window if there is some objective steal potential possible. But that will be it for this set for today. I hope you've had as much fun as we have had here streaming this game for you today. And it's been fantastic entertainment put on from all of these players on show today. So what a good time we have had. But of course, I have been Judas Priestley, joined today by Kara Gold on the chair 2 position. Of course, got to give a shout out to Muffin Man on production. What a fantastic effort they put in this evening to give us a fantastic show to watch. But we will be signing off for today. Thank you all for tuning in, and hopefully again we can catch you sometime super duper soon.